conflict. Chapter 1. I found myself face down in a shabby and worn-out alley. What am I doing in an alley? I thought to myself as I got up. The last thing I remember was completing my college work, doing the dishes, taking a bath, checking out all the various fan fiction sites I regularly visit to check for any updates and going off to bed. This can't be a kidnapping because I'm simply not important enough or know anybody important enough to warrant that. I look around and don't really recognize the architecture style. It seemed too westernized for an Indian locality. This throws me into further confusion. The last place with such buildings are Mumbai city, which I haven't visited in a year, or Bangalore city, which I can't visit due to the ongoing pandemic and quite frankly because there is no reason for me to visit. I reorient myself and freeze. I look down and see clothes on my body that I've never owned. Neither have I ever purchased trekking shoes despite wanting a pair for a while. I'm wearing black and grey trekking shoes, blue jeans, a white shirt underneath a black faux leather jacket with the hood pulled over my head. Clothes that I may have wanted for a while but definitely never got around purchasing, so my would-be kidnappers took me from home and got me new clothes? Why? This is all so confusing. In the back of my mind a niggling doubt starts to sprout if these are human actions, but I put down those thoughts hard. If not for humans, then what? Monkeys? Rats? We have now evidence for aliens, and gods wouldn't take any interest in me, so exactly what is going here? While I was debating myself, I had subconsciously begun moving towards somewhere. I still don't know where I was after all. I walk across a discarded mirror paneling that could have been once a part of a hotel or office and freeze. That wasn't me. No, it was an idealized version of me, slightly Greek too in features for some reason, but it wasn't me. How did I not notice this earlier? I am taller, for gosh sakes. I look like I'm at least 6 feet and a few inches in height, whereas I should be 5'9". The man in the mirror looks like he's been living in a gym for the last year. Even though the clothes are bulky, you can see that he's got a perfect mesomorph physique. I haven't touched weights in the last 2 years, and even at the peak of my fitness I never achieved such a figure because my body type never fit the ideal comic/manga look that most guys my age wanted after 1 week of workout. All of these factors aside, the thing that freaks me out the most is that the man looking back at me in the mirror was younger, a young adult, around 18 to 19 years in age. Somebody who just stepped out of teenage, not a fully grown man, not the 25-year-old face I remember seeing in the bathroom mirror last night. I never noticed in my inner turmoil that I was lifting decently sized mirror panel in my hands. Just what was going on here? A new place? New clothes? A different body? This is not human work. You already know what is going on. Stop with the monologue and get to it. There's things to be done and standing here is not getting them done faster, whispered a part of my mind. I reeled back in shock at the casual dismissal of the situation by my own mind, but I knew that I had changed, not because of this new body or the place I found myself in, because the entire time I was observing myself, the face that looked back was cool, confident, and looked a little bored, like this was the 50th time he was put in this situation and it was starting to bore him. Because he could stare down the apocalypse in the face and ask what's next? He would never bow down or break down in the direst of situations because he is willpower personified, unbreakable and boundless, Invictus, whispered my mind. The mirror instantly shattered into pieces in my hands. There was not a mark on it. My hands looked untouched. No, no, no. This is not what I expected to happen. That word. Why did that word pop up in my mind? It was just an internet meme, made up by people who wanted to escape into a fantasy world where they felt they were the main character, who could save the day like Superman and fight and win unwinnable fights like Goku, but it was just a fantasy. I thought furiously in my head, my anger materializing itself like the wrath of nature itself. My eyes were burning red, an aura of energy crackling around me, lashing out like an ill-tempered child. The weather warped from the pleasant sunny day into a thunderstorm above my head. All the loose rubble around me was floating haphazardly, buildings around me cracked, the alleyway was turned into powder under the pressure, and the city was trembling. As if to mock my loss of control, my senses dialed up 11, the screams, oh God, the screams of the people were starting to drown me. I could feel my power flex itself for at least 70 to 80 kilometers, and the ground and the air itself were fighting against themselves. It was starting to rain heavily and thunder strikes were spearing down from the heavens. In response, the ground rose up a few feet. Skyscrapers were twisting as if they were about to stand up and fight against the sky, and every living thing, every human, rat, dog and cat became the collateral damage. Their screams were harrowing. They did nothing wrong, all going about their day, some hoping to change their luck, some doing the daily grind, to put food on the table, to go back home to their loved ones, and it was all ruined by one man because he could not accept reality and move on. What had I done? This is not what I wanted. I never wanted to be the source of all this destruction. Why me? Welcome to your new reality. You now live in a world of clay and cardboard, where you are supreme and the rest will bow down or will be forced to bow before you. Every time you lose control and lash out, it is the world that will suffer the consequences. My traitorous mind cackled in delight. I needed to get myself under control before I kill even more people. I could already feel the death toll was around 812 people that my senses could identify, and it's only been 5 seconds since this cataclysm started. I had to fix this. I wrought this onto these people. I was not a hero by any means, but I knew when to take responsibility. I shot up into the air to analyze the situation. Before I knew it, I was already in the stratosphere. My eyes focused instantly on the entire city and more with godlike precision and clarity, penetrating every obstacle in its path to see everything. My mind moved even faster, already allocating safe zones to drop off people, where the affected are in levels of severity, and the fastest ways to reach there. I took a deep breath and reined in my power, and instantly the storms subsided and the earthquakes lulled. The feeling on pressure in the air that was permeating throughout the city was instantly snuffed out, but the danger still existed, and I will do everything to correct the mistakes I made today. I shot down to earth at unbelievable speeds towards my arranged flight path. In mind I knew that I was an unstoppable force and an immovable object, but speed was the deciding factor in this rescue, and I could not slow down every time I rescue someone. Thankfully physics didn't apply to me when I wanted nothing to do with it. I could hold up skyscrapers on my fingers without them falling into their own weight. I could catch people at light speeds without having to worry about popping them like a balloon at such speeds. So I willed my energy to form on my face like a mask of flame, and I took off. Today was just another day in good old Brockton Bay. Life was hard here, being one of the top 10 cities in Cape population, and with most of the said Capes being villains meant that the people here were built for sterner stuff, used to seeing the impossible, used to feeling like death was around the corner, but nothing prepared the people for the sheer magnitude to destruction that came upon them out of nowhere. The people almost expected to hear the wails of the Endbringer sirens, seeing the storm above and the quakes below, expecting both the behemoth and the leviathan to turn up and raise the city down. Buildings were falling, lightning pouring down like water from the skies, and ground swallowed up people for what seemed like hours, but just as soon as it began it calmed down as well. The skies were still covered in black clouds, fires were spreading through the city, and people were still stuck in this horror. Everybody cried out to be saved, for a hero to help them in their time of need. And a hero they got. Faster than people could perceive, they were moved from the places of disaster to the beach, the train yard and the boat graveyard, all of which had their obstruction moved into piles to create empty spaces for people to stand in. Within minutes the empty areas started filling up with people from all over the city. No, not only people but also the animals of the city were partitioned using the junk lying around so that they would not cross over to the human side. The only thing people could see flashes of light traveling from the safe zones to the city and hear the sound barrier break multiple times in a second. The people of this city had seen personal power at its perceived peak. They had seen teleporters, a fire-breathing dragon, metal manipulators, men and women with weapons and armors from the future, a miracle doctor who could heal instantly almost any wound, and even had their own Alexandria light, but never had they seen such a rescue, such heights of physical feats that blew over anything this world had ever witnessed. When their savior stopped with last rescue completed, they saw an extremely well-built man wearing civilian clothing, with his hood pulled over his head and orange-white flames covering his face like a mask with two bright red lights shining in place of his eyes. The crowd took in the image of their savior and exploded into loud cheers. People were praising him for giving them another chance at life, a chance to carry onwards with their loved ones. The air around these dead parts of the city that no normal person would ever visit filled with jubilation and gratefulness, but their savior only looked towards the ruined city, staring at it with such wistful longing that he did not react to cheer and kept floating in the air, and just as fast he came and rescued everybody he shot up into the air so fast that no one saw him move. Only heard the aftershocks of the air as he long left the city and vanished into the sky, probably to save others in need. Worm CYOA version 1. Entry, self-insert. Difficulty: hard, +3. Complications: wanted x3, +3, 6. S9 is hiring, +4, 10. Leviathan, +2, 12. Powers: Alexandria, -2, 10. Legend, -2, 8. Psychokinetic, -2, 6. Inspired Inventor, -2, 4. Perks: blank, -1, 3. Shattered Limiter, -1, 2. Invitas, -1, 1. Cloak and Dagger, -1, 0. In case the readers want to know what these mean in terms of powers from Superpower Wiki, here's the list. Supernatural/Absolute Condition, Alexandria. Energy Manipulation, Legend. Psychokinesis/Telekinesis, Psychokinetic. Ability Intuition, Instant, Inspired Inventor. Experience Manipulation, Self, Inspired Inventor. Instant Learning, Inspired Inventor. Instilled Knowledge, Inspired Inventor. Intuitive Aptitude, Inspired Inventor. Skill Manipulation, Self, Inspired Inventor. Talent Manipulation, Self, Inspired Inventor. Absolute Potential, Shattered Limiter. Anti-Power Manipulation, Invitas. Psychic Immunity, Invitas. Indomitable Will, Invitas. Tracking Evasion/Limited Imperceptibility, blank. Conflict. Chapter 2. Interlude. Victoria Dallin's POV. Today was looking up to be an awesome day. The weather was sunny and warm, perfect for a nice flight. She and Dean were back together and this time they will make it work. Damn the foe for treating her emotions like a cheap drama. Amy was looking like a zombie when she got her back from the hospital last night. I still feel like she needs ease up on the healing and take a break, but both her and Mom act like without panacea the hospital will stop functioning. Mom still looks at Amy with too much suspicion, keeping account of her every action and not even complimenting her. To be honest, the only PR the new wave gets is because Amy slogs day in and day out in the hospital, and Mom still looks like Amy is going to murder someone in there. Dad is, the less said about that it's better, but hey, he actually greeted me and Amy in the morning, so it truly must be a great day today. And all that changed quickly when the Brockton Bay Cataclysm struck. The sky looked like it wanted the earth below gone, and the ground rose up in challenge to sky's provocation. The waves were building up on the sideline to take down the winner of the fight, and everything went to hell after that. People were dying left and right to her, looking at her in air for help, but she didn't know what to do. She tried helping a man stuck underneath a tree that fell over, only to find the nearby building falling upon a group of people huddled underneath, crushing them. Red pools started flow from the rubble and dust was flying everywhere. Fires were starting due to lightning striking every place, and for the first time since the Endbringer fights she was starting to feel weak. She wasn't fast or strong enough to help the people in need. Tears were starting to form and blur her vision. She was helping as many people as she could be. It wasn't enough. She wished this damn thing would just stop, and just like that the sky went silent, the ground settled down, but the damage was already done and the fires were now starting to pick up the pace to fill the void the sky and earth left. Before she could do anything about it, the air cracked and the rubble around her started to break apart, revealing the people stuck underneath. And then just like that, flashes of light appeared and the people started to disappear from their places. All of this happening within a second. Before she could even form her thoughts, she felt herself rise up from the ground and move at speeds she could not even dream of achieving, and she was already in a clearing now. It looked familiar. It was the beach. All the junk that had been lying around was crushed and moved into the corner to create space for people who were starting to magically appear all over the place. She couldn't imagine the power needed for such a feat. This person was physically flying all over the city, rescuing the people and bringing them here. Oh, Miss Militia just arrived with a bunch of PRT officers. Ah, there's her aunt and her cousin Eric. She still hasn't seen her mom and Amy, but she's holding out in the hope that there are other areas around the city where people are being gathered. Aunt Sarah. Eric, I'm so glad to see you guys. Where's the rest of the family? Is everybody okay? I blabbered at high speed, crashing into the two of them and hugging the life out of them. Vicky. Thank God you're here. I still don't have any contact with the others, but that Cape who is going around saving everyone should have gotten everybody out. I mean, he is saving every single person and animal without stopping. Look behind you, she pointed to. Is that? Yup, that was Rune, Victor, and Uthula from the Empire, and off to side was Faultline's crew, and that's Uber and Leet trying to calm people down. The Cape has shown no distinction between hero and villain and has rescued every single person who caught up in the disaster, so I have hope that our family is taken care of in another location, said Aunt Sarah, who was looking both relieved and cautious, keeping an eye on the villains, who themselves were eyeing the heroes, but neither side made any move or spoke a word. I was actually in the air when I was moved here. The Cape has cleared out the boat graveyard as well to accommodate people. A lot of people I saw vanishing haven't ended up here, so they must have taken them there. Eric spoke out. He looked tired and out of it. Lady Photon, Shielder, and Glory Girl, I'm glad to see you all unharmed. Miss Militia walked in from the side, greeting us. If you all don't mind, I would like to enlist your help in managing the crowd and helping those in need according to the severity of their injuries. Only myself, Triumph, Kidwin and Shadow Stalker were dropped off here, and we are outnumbered by the villains by quite a bit, she said discreetly, pointing towards the grouped villains. We would be happy to help out, but I request you to enact some kind of truce with other side to calm the tensions. The civilians are starting to grow wary of another disaster waiting to happen, Aunt Sarah pointed out, which was true. She could see people slowly back up from both sides looking at us if we're about to start fighting right now. Triumph is talking about the truce with Faultline and Uber and Leet. I will talk with Uthula's group right now, as she is the most important para-human right now with her healing ability. Please coordinate with the PRT agents and help gather the civilians to the places where we managed to gather the paramedics. I'll come back as soon as I can, Miss Militia stated before she started to walk towards the Empire Capes. Come on Eric, Vicky, let's help out as much as we can. We need every bit of help we can in this situation, said Aunt Sarah. The city looks as if it was hit by an ENB. Enough, Eric, don't say it out aloud, we don't want to create any more panic, and Sarah stated firmly, giving Eric a stern glance before walking towards Shadow Stalker and a group of PRT and paramedics, looking uncharacteristically quiet. Her left arm was covered in bandages, must have gotten hit during the disaster. She hoped that her family, Dean and Amy, were fine. For now she'll do everything she can to help those in need. She'll get stronger and become a better hero that the city deserves tomorrow. Amy Dallin's POV. The day was turning into another grind. She got of her bed with as much enthusiasm as a bear leaving hibernation, found herself in the bathroom and got ready. She avoided Carol as much as she could and was greeted by Mark today. Vicky looked upbeat today. Why wouldn't she be, after all she made with Dean for the 100th time after their breakup? It really pissed her off that Dean couldn't just finish this farce they called their relationship and get it over with. Vicky deserved better than him. But she would never say these words out loud. What she felt for her sweet Vicky was something she will take to the grave with her. No one, especially Vicky herself and Carol, must never know about. She was afraid to find out Vicky's reaction to her love for her, but her fear for Carol's reaction was something she could not out in words. She was happy when Vicky dropped her to school and then to the hospital from there. Upon entering the hospital, all her joy left her. It was back to rat race for her. It grated her nerves, walking around asking people, "Do I have your permission to heal you?" Repeating those words over and over like a mantra, rarely getting a thank you. People asking her to change their boob size, dick size, give them a makeover, make them prettier, more handsome, more beautiful, cure their diseases, fix their illness, day in and day out, the same things over and over every day. But she'll do it, because that's why she has these powers, to help people, every single person, because that's what she was good at. At times she felt like waiting for a disaster to strike so that she can help even more people all at once, without them having to come all the way to the hospital, wasting their time traveling and her time in having to go around hospital to hospital, kind of like an Endbringer fight. And disaster struck. The world started to tremble, the buildings tore themselves from the ground to dance around in some macabre dance of death, and she was currently falling into the abyss the earth created. This was all her fault. Had she not wished for something so foolish, everything would fine. She killed all these people, people she could help because she felt entitled enough to make demands, and now she was paying the price for her folly. Vicky, I wish I could see you one last time, she thought as she closed her eyes, falling into the chasm. Before she could cry even more, she felt herself awkwardly stumble on solid ground. When she opened her eyes, she saw that she was fine. "Miss Panacea, you're all right?" asked Rosie, one of her better acquainted nurses from the hospital who tried her best to help her every time she could. "Rosie, what just happened? And how are we here? Wait, where is here?" I reoriented myself and saw a giant clearing with worn-down warehouses, and were those boats piled up in the sides to clear space? "I think we're at the boat graveyard, Miss Panacea. It's the only part of the city that has so many boats and warehouses," said another nurse from nearby. "The cape that helped us must cleared this place up before dropping off people here. All right guys, this is an emergency situation. I can see BBPD, Brockton Bay Police Department, and the PRT agents along with assault and battery. Let's join up with them, quickly set up medical camps to help out as many people as we can," shouted Dr. Vincent from the front. He clearly knew his stuff as he quickly got down to coordinate with the various departments to help the people. "Panacea, I'm so glad you're here," said Vista, running towards her with Aegis in tow. "Vista, Aegis, are you both the only wards here? Any news on where Glory Girl is? Happy to see some familiar faces." I wanted the answer to the most important question first. Just where was Vicky in all this mess? "We just received a radio call from Miss Militia. Lady Photon, Shielder, and Glory Girl were dropped off at the beach by the mysterious Cape along with Shadow Stalker, Kidwin and Triumph, whereas Laser Dream, Manpower, Brandish and Flashbang are at the train yard with Clock Blocker and Dauntless." Vista shot of the information, looking relieved herself that her friends were fine,
and I felt a weight fall off my shoulders when I heard Vicky was safe.
Listen, Panacea, despite being safe from the disaster, the Cape who saved us rescued every single person, including the villains. Majority of the Empire and what looks like Coil's mercenaries are here. You need to very careful while healing people. Assault and Battery have formed a truce with them for now, but don't let your guard down. You're the most important Cape here right now, warned Aegis, whose costume looked like it was put through the blender.
Panacea, please get prepared. We have set up the camps, and are ready to accept patients. You will be at the intensive care unit. All the best. We are all counting on you, interrupted Dr. Wilson.
Looks like this is it. I got my wish, now to actually help all these people, just like the Cape who helped us all from the disaster.
Lisa Wilburn's POV.
She finally had some time for herself. Free? No, not free, but unfettered for the time being. She still had her Minders, there to ensure that she'll be a good girl and not try to leave the city. Coil wouldn't want his pet thinker of the leash that easily. After all, in case she acts out of line, he'll be happy to remind her who is the boss, and what the boss is capable of. She clenched her fists, no emotions showing on her face. She needed to get out, but she was truly stuck. Coil never showed himself more than necessary. Brain would never betray the boss in fear of what would happen to his sister. Alec is more than happy to hide out here from whom he is running, and Rachel only cares about her dogs. She sat with her cafe latte looking at all the people carrying on with their lives, all their dirty little secrets laid bare before her, a little truth here and a little truth there, and she could have control over anyone she wished to, but here she was, with the sword of Damocles looming over her head, waiting for one little mistake and chop. She thought as she crushed the plastic coffee glass, throwing it in the bin. I think I'll go back to apartment now, nothing much to do or see here, might as well log in into Foe and bully Void Cowboy for a bit, she thought to herself, letting out a giggle. Just as she got ready to leave, the ground gave way and the sky lit up with lightning. Oh no! What's going on here? She shouted, trying to crawl away from open maw on the ground. Why is my luck like this? Why can't that snake man be here? Tears were streaming down her face as she continued to run, but where to run? Every other block looked like an Endbringer zone, as if the Leviathan and Behemoth decided to see who can screw up the city the fastest. Somebody please help! Before she could finish her sentence, she found herself in the train yard, which was missing a lot of the junk and trains one she was used to seeing in this place. Thank God for the hero who saved us. I was this close to losing you both, cried a man from nearby, hugging his wife and son, similar cries being heard all over the place. Off to the side she saw that the heroes, Laser Dream, Manpower, Brandish, Flashbang, Clock Blocker and Dauntless were having words with the merchants and the ABB. Lung looked a little out of it, looking side to side searching for something or someone, firing of orders to Asian person in sight. Oni Lee silently standing at his side. The merchants were creating a ruckus as usual and added little the conversation. The New Wave and the PRT were organizing the people with help of the BBPD, the fire department, the DWA and the paramedics on site, helping how many ever they could. She caught a glimpse of Brain with his sister. She wanted to go there, but it would raise more questions, and right now she was still too emotionally distraught for her usual antics. She was just glad that the Cape had quite literally saved every single person in the city, including animals, and divided them between the beach, the boat graveyard and here, from the information she picked up by hearing what the people were discussing around her. All of the sudden the flashes of light that brought people from all over the city stopped mid-air, looking down at the crowd. Silence spread through the train yard as they looked up to their savior. He was an extremely well-built man. 6'3" in height, her power supplied, wearing casual clothing with his hood up instead of some grand costume and a mask made of flames. Sustained flow of energy covering the face to protect identity, physically invulnerable, extremely fast, near limitless strength, high levels of energy manipulation, macro-scale psychokinesis. Her power fired of one after another, making her eyes go wide. Somebody won the power lottery, she thought as the crowd went wild, people cheering madly looking at their savior in utter awe.
but their savior only looked at them, with an awkward look and turned to look at the ruined city. Recent trigger, got his powers minutes ago, is the cause for the disaster, unintentional, did not have his emotions under control which let a fraction of his power loose, power was active only for 10 seconds her face started to go pale, he buried an entire city by flexing his power for 10 seconds unintentionally. And he was a new trigger who was still learning to use his powers, just how powerful was this guy? Extremely powerful, probably the strongest being in existence currently, has no limit to his power, will only grow stronger with time her power chimed, making her sweat out. Limitless power. Just who the heck is this? The cape still hadn't looked at the crowd. Feels ashamed to even look at crowd since all this happened because of him, feel unworthy of the attention, wishes he could reset the city back to its original state, doesn't have the control required for such a task currently. Holy God above in heaven, this guy was on a whole different level compared to every other para-human, his powers were reminiscent of an Endbringer rather than a cape, which the people would definitely label him if they found out that their savior is also there. Annihilator. I wonder if he would be willing to help a poor little girl being coerced into villainy by a big bad snake. She thought to herself as saw nope, too fast, heard the shock waves of the cape leaving Brockton Bay and heading into the sky and disappearing to some place else. She had a feeling that it wouldn't be long before he came to city. For now she is going to get treated and check if apartment withstood the might of the super cape. Taylor Hebert's POV. Just another day, surviving school and the trios she thought as she made her way back home, constantly checking the neighborhood with her bugs. At least Sophia wasn't there for the last bit so she didn't have to get hurt physically, just the daily mental abuse from Emma and Madison was all she got while leaving the school, which was okay, she could handle, she wouldn't lash out with her powers no matter how tempting it was, she was better than them, she aspired to be a hero, one that would save everyone. She wished she had Alexandria's power, so that she fly from danger to danger, saving people, beating up villains with her strength and standing in front of bullets with her hands on hips. Instead she got bugs, not that bugs were bad. She was grateful to simply have the chance to be something more than a victim, but it was kind of hard to sell bug control as a hero's power. All hail Ladybug, the walking pest extermination company. She giggled to herself. She avoided the broken step and entered her house. Dad was still not back home. Her dad, things were getting better? Maybe? She didn't know, it hurt her that it took the locker incident for Dad to finally start paying attention to her, but she'll take what she gets. She still hadn't revealed that she was a cape to him, as he would definitely ask her to join the wards, something she simply wasn't willing to go through right now. She had enough drama in her life, super-powered teenage drama was unnecessary right now. Her main focus was to complete her costume and find an opportunity to go out and patrol. She just needed a chance to show the world that she was ready to be a hero. Maybe tonight. Once Dad's asleep it shouldn't be. Ha boom, her thought halted to a stop when she heard a loud booming sound and the house started to shake. Earthquake, she shouted as she started to crawl under her bed, but the shaking only got worse, the house was groaning out in pain. No 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 no, please don't give out now, please hold on. She kept chanting and crying desperately, but the house seemed at its last legs. She let out a scream as she felt the bed crush her from above. Her bug sense was scrambling her brain as she felt the deaths of so many of her bugs, most of which were through burning in the fires spearing the streets. I'm sorry Mom, sorry Dad, I couldn't tell you the truth until the end, I'll never get to be a good daughter or a hero for you. She mumbled as the pressure on her body getting fatal, her vision was starting to black out when she heard a crash and her position changed out of nowhere, disorienting her severely as she was still connected to her bugs, which was suddenly yanked off when she found herself face down in alongside a crowd somewhere. Oh my God child, are you all right? She felt herself being pulled upwards as began to heave. She felt a new connection established to the bugs nearby as she finally felt good enough to stand on her own. Thank you, where are we and how did we get here? She asked the older man who helped her up. We are at the train yard, the hero that saved us all dropped us here. From what I understand, he has divided the entire city between here, the beach and boat graveyard, and started to drop of every person and animal he rescued," the elder informed her with excitement in his voice. I let out a breath of relief when I heard that. If the hero saved me from within the house which was crumbling down, then my dad, who was at the docks with so many people, definitely got saved. "Do you know if anyone from the Dock Workers Association got dropped of here?" she asked the elderly gentleman. "Oh yes, the DWA has been helping people get organized. Come with me, I'll take you to them," he said as he gently pulled to her to a direction. She finally saw some familiar faces in the distance, people she had seen with her dad whenever she came down to the docks. "Taylor, thank God you're all right. Danny was so worried about you. Find him off to the corner there near the paramedic tent and stay safe," she heard Billy, a long-time union worker at the docks, thanking him. She took the elder alongside her and dashed forward to the tent. "Dad! Taylor! Oh, thank God you're fine, my sweet girl. I was so worried about you," Dad cried out, tears trailing down his face. "I couldn't help but cry when I remembered that I almost died back there. I was so scared, Dad. I was stuck beneath the bed and the house was coming down. I almost thought I died when the hero saved me from there," I cried out as Dad's hug got tighter as if to pull me within him and keep me safe from everything. "SHH, it's all fine, honey. You're fine now, my little owl. Nothing's going to happen to you now," he whispered as he soothingly rubbed my back. "I'm glad you're fine now, child. Stick together with your father and everything will be all right. Now I'm going to go search for my own family. You stay safe now, dear," said the elderly gentleman as he made his way into the crowd. "Thank you so much, Grandpa," I shouted so that he could hear me. He simply turned back, smiled and waved his hands, making his way into the crowd, disappearing from sight. All of a sudden the constant chatter stopped and the yard became deathly silent. I could only hear the feedback from the bugs. I looked at my dad, who simply staring into the sky while holding me arm. I looked where it seemed the whole crowd was looking. I let out a gasp as I saw the hero who rescued the entire city floating above in the air, wearing casual clothes, with flames formed around his face to protect his identity. He looked like one those model bodybuilders even though he had his clothes on. I felt a blush on my face, chiding myself for such thoughts when the crowd rose up in a blast of cheer for their hero. I couldn't help but join alongside them as I knew I would have died if he hadn't saved me from the house. Even Dad was cheering loudly, but the hero kept looking at the ruined city as if regretting the fact that he couldn't save everybody, and just as quickly he saved us all, he left with sonic boom. Nobody even saw him move. No wonder he saved the city by himself. And he didn't stop to take any credit or show off, only quietly expressing his regret at not being able to save everyone. That's the kind of hero I want to be one day, the kind who will save the everybody. Emily Piggott's POV. Going over the budget review for the month put a frown on her face. He constant requests for more para-human support, financial support, and even PRT personnel support has been cut off at every turn of the way. Was it so hard to understand that the city with the highest CAPE per person ratio needed more support, especially when most of said CAPEs took upon the mantle of villains rather being a hero? This is why she dislikes CAPEs. She didn't hold them up to the same standards as the rest, or put them on a pedestal that most people put CAPEs on. Giving powers to people who just went through emotional and mental trauma is a recipe for disaster. Disasters like the Ash Beast, the S9, the blasphemies, disasters like Nilbog. She closed her eyes and took in a deep breath. The hairs on her neck were raised. She played back the incident of that day in her mind again. People seem to think that being heroes made CAPEs paragons of good, who could do no wrong. Well, those people haven't been betrayed at a high-priority mission by their heroes. Truly the saying "never meet your heroes, because they're sure to disappoint you" was said by someone who had seen the real side of heroes. They are all humans, with human emotions, human limitations, and human flaws. If they truly had to choose between themselves and the rest of the world, they would choose themselves every time, because that's what humans do. Her musing was brought to grinding halt when the rig shook. For a second she thought that the Leviathan had come to visit the bay, but she let those thoughts go when she didn't hear any sirens or updates on incoming Endbringer movement. A natural disaster, by the gods, nature couldn't have picked a worse time to strike out. Madam Director, her comms blared into life, Arms Master on the other side. Report, Arms Master, what the hell is going on out there? At first glance it may seem like a natural disaster, but it came out of nowhere. There were no signals of any sort on the scanners that signified an incoming disaster, ma'am. He paused for a second and then carried on. Dragon has reported no natural tectonic movement or an incoming storm alert. Had it been any one disaster then we could have written it off as a system error, but both appearing out of no. He stopped all of the sudden. What's wrong? The disaster just stopped. What? The disaster, it just stopped after coming out of nowhere. I went on for 10 seconds before coming to an unnatural halt. This adds further proof to the theory that this disaster was man-made. Her face went pale, and her hands started to quiver. This is the reason she despises para-humans. Just 10 seconds, and the entire city was in shambles. Who knows just how many people died, probably just so that the Cape who did can show off his bloody powers. I'm extremely sorry to interrupt your meeting, Madam Director, Arms Master, but you both need to see this. There is a new Cape in the city who saved every single person who was alive. They even dropped of the deceased in an area near the ferry station. She was knocked out her frustration thanks to Dragon's voice. She needed that. Now was not the time to contemplate the nature of capes. She needs to get her head in the game. I'll use all the help I can get, Dragon. Thank you for volunteering for this. Now what is this about a new cape? I've forwarded the files to your computer. Not many cameras from the city survived, but what did survive has shown, well, feats of para-human strength never seen before. I got plenty of footage from people filming the disaster and the safe zones this cape created. You'll need to see this to believe it, ma'am. Just as Dragon finished, her office doors opened. Arms Master, Deputy Director Rennick, Special Consultant Thomas Calvert and all other departmental heads joined her. Since you are all here, let's watch whatever Dragon has sent together. She let the projector down as everyone arranged themselves in the room. The various videos started popping up on the screen, and what they saw certainly left everyone in the room speechless. She had spent a lot of her life around para-humans. She has some of the strongest capes this world has to offer. Meeting Alexandria felt like sizing up to a mountain. She was cold, precise, and invulnerable. Legend felt like the closest a cape ever reached to being a true hero. The man had a warmth around him, which could turn into an inferno if those he loved and protected were threatened. Eidolon felt nebulous, constantly shifting, adapting to any situation, but detached from the rest of the world. But nothing ever felt like the man on the screen, wearing nothing but casuals, face covered in flames to hide his identity. The man oozed power, and that scared her, far more than the blasphemies, more than the S9, even more than that monster Nilbog. The three blasphemies did not terrorize Europe on their own. They were the creations of a lot of different people coming together to create chaos. The S9 were a group of psychopaths who had filled each other's weaknesses. That's how they survived for as long as they have. Nilbog relies on his creations to cause havoc. None of them travel at speeds faster than what cameras can see. Rescue nearly 500,000 people. Prepare safe zones for them to land safely within 10 seconds. Humans don't do that. They can't do that. Alexandria, Legend, Murden, Chevalier, Arms Master, heck, even Eidolon is nowhere near the realms of power she just witnessed. Because they were all humans, with human limitations, this man felt more like an Endbringer. She shook herself out of these morbid thoughts and turned her eyes towards the room. Arms Master was clenching his teeth so hard she could feel them grinding from here. Rennick simply looked relieved on the outside, but she knew her deputy. He thoughts must racing as fast as hers regarding this monster of a cape. Calvert was looking at the image as if he just found his holy grail. It was seriously starting to creep her the way he was looking, the man with such calculating eyes. Madam Director, I've added a connection to all the comms to your room. You can speak with the PRT ground force and the protectorate and the wards right away, ma'am, spoke up department head Pilkness. Bless his soul for such fast work.
Thank you, Mr. Pilkness. I switched on the comms. All ground units, this Director Piggott, give a means a trep for all your areas. The comms lit up with life with every person reporting. She lost 3 men and 2 women from the port during the disaster. Her blood boiled as she clenched her hands. These were good, honest people who tried to keep their country a safe place. It broke her heart every time one of them died on the line of duty. Once everyone reported in, I had to ask, Miss Militia, were you able to get a glimpse of the new Cape who rescued you all? I'm sorry, ma'am, the new Cape travels at speeds so fast that it felt teleportation. One moment me and team were at downtown directing and help whomever we could, and in the next instant we all appeared at the beach. The only reason we know that he didn't teleport is because he left sonic booms every time he flew. He shows no distinction towards whom he is saving. Not only did save the civilians, the heroes, and the villains, but he also saved all the various pets and animals within the city and separated them from the human sections. What a man! Most capes would just save as many as they can before calling in quits. This man went on to save even the animals within the city. I had the opportunity to see the new Cape up close, spoke up Dauntless. The train yard was the last location he stopped by it. The people were going crazy thanking him for saving them, but he kept looking back at the city as if searching for something, didn't say a single word the entire time, just took off. After staring at the city for a few seconds he finished, perhaps he knew somebody in the city, perhaps he knew who caused the disaster and was tracking him down? Too many questions and not enough answers right now. What can you tell me about him, Dauntless? Any observations? Anything that stood out? Asked Arms Master in a very subdued tone. He looked so tired, but if you knew him in person then was simply a prelude for his tinkering to get even more intense. I kept wanting to fly up and speak to him, thank him for saving me and city, but there was this aura about him. I felt like I was trying to look at something I couldn't understand. You know, lung was dropped of at this location. He paused. Everybody in the room and on the other line breath stuck in their throats. The strongest cape in the entire bay had to saved like everyone else. Did he throw a temper tantrum around all those civilians? He was looking around the entire time searching for someone, firing of orders to every Asian at the yard. He even agreed to the